Hey, what's up guys? It's Alex, and today I'm going to teach you how to code. I'll be taking you from complete beginner to understanding and writing some of the most important concepts in coding. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to write and run your very first pieces of code while explaining everything step by step and teaching you one core concept of coding that you need to learn in 2018. This video is intended for absolute beginners who want to learn how to code. All the code and explanations that I give will be in a cheat sheet in the description of this video. So let's first start by defining what code exactly is. Coding is just a to-do list for a computer. If we want our computer to run 3 lines of code, our computer has to do what's on the first line, and then it has to do what's on the second line, and then it has to do what's on the third line. So code's just a to-do list for a computer. But how do we tell it what to do? And how do we even begin to speak computer? Well, let's look at it this way. There's a bunch of cards laid out on the table, and by picking and choosing, we can make our own to-do list. It's the same for coding. In this case, code's laid out on the internet. So let's go find some code and start making our own to-do list. For beginners, I recommend a website called W3 Schools to find code. So let's go to w3schools.com. This will be linked in the description, and every link will. Click on tutorials, and you'll start to see a bunch of different programming languages. Programming languages help us communicate with the computer. And right now we're going to use one called Python. So click on Learn Python. And scroll down until you see this white box. Aha, we found code! We can tell this is code because it has a lot of funny symbols, and plus the website says it is. We are curious programmers, so we're going to try to see what this code does. So open up a text editor. Any text editor will do. I'm going to use Word. And type what you see in that white box. So we print, open parenthesis, it looks like there's some quotation marks, world, close, close. Once you're done, you should see something like this. So now what? Shouldn't it be doing something? Well, funnily enough, our computer doesn't know what this means. Computers understand machine code, which is zeros and ones. Our text editor doesn't convert this Python code into machine code, so we need a special place or environment that'll do that for us, so that the computer can understand what we want it to do. So head over to the second URL in the description and the cheat sheet, and delete whatever's in the left box. Here's an environment that'll convert our Python code into machine code so our computer can understand what's going on. Every programming environment has 3 parts. 1, a place for you to put your code. 2, a place for the results of your code. And 3, a way to start your code. There are fancy programming environments that will have an iPhone screen or a computer screen in the results section to make it a lot easier to code for those devices. But right now we have the bare bones. So go back to your text editor and copy with Control or Command C, and then Control V or Command V into here. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little better. Now let's start our code by clicking Execute and see what happens. Okay, this is an error. This means something isn't going quite right. And let me tell you why. It's because computers are very picky with how you type certain things. So this code right here has some different uppercase and lowercase, and also some different symbols that can be hard to catch. So in the original, we have a lowercase p, but it looks like Microsoft Word capitalized the p, and this actually has to be lowercase. You need to be really specific with coding. Also, these double quotes are sort of special formatted versions of double quotes that Microsoft Word also changed. So we have to retype the double quotes. And so most of the time, because of this, we don't use normal text editors for coding. We just code in the environment itself. It makes things easier. We have some nice color coding, so that's why. So good, so once you have an orange print and then a green hello world, we can press the execute button again to start the code, and good, we have hello world in the results. Now give yourself a pat on the back because you just ran code. Now let's ask ourselves a very important question. Why does it look like this? What do all these symbols mean, and how on earth am I going to remember how to type all this? And the answer I found with 7 years of coding is that nobody knows exactly what to type all the time, especially for beginners. You start by practicing with examples, and then you start to see the patterns over time. So let's do just that. Let's play with examples. I have a third link in the description. We'll head over there. And this has a list of examples we can play with. And I'm going to do exactly the same process that we did with the first piece of code. So we'll just click on one. Let's click on abs. Go down to the definition. We see that this piece of code is supposed to get the absolute value of a specified number. And this is what it looks like. So let's copy and paste that. I'm just going to close my text editor because we don't need this anymore. We just found out that it causes a lot of problems. So let's just go right into our environment, go after the first line, because we're writing a to-do list. It does the first thing, and then the second thing. Let's do our second thing. Abs. Abs, open parenthesis, the letter N, and then a close parenthesis. And actually, what this website says is that N is actually a number. So we can replace N with any number. So let's do that. What's my favorite number? Let's try 1337. Now let's execute it and see what happens. Okay, looks like it finished loading, but nothing's out in the results. And that's because a lot of the times what computers do is they think in the background, but don't actually put anything in the results like we want. So we're just going to use this print piece of code from earlier and put the abs inside those parentheses. You don't have to focus on like exactly what everything's doing. Just know that we're bringing this to the results with some code we found earlier. So now, if we run this again, we see that the absolute value of 1337 is in the results. And we can also take the absolute value of negative 1337, and that should also be the same number. Okay, now let's do exactly the same thing. We're just playing with examples. Let's go back to the list, and let's see, this one right here looks interesting. POW. Okay, the definition says that POW takes the value of x to the power of y. Ooh, okay, and this is what it looks like. POW x comma y comma z. So copy and paste that in here, and let's see what it does. Right, we got an error because x, y, and z have to be replaced with whatever the website says. So x is a number, the base, and y is the exponent. And z is optional, so we're not going to worry about that. So we're going to delete z. And let's take 2 to the power of 3, which is also 8. So you'll start to see that coding is also like a big calculator. Let's click execute. Okay, no errors. But again, this is running code in the background. So let's bring it to the foreground. And click execute again. Nice. So we see 8 is printed out because 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Now this all looks very confusing, so I'm just going to delete that code. Good. Now let's notice something. All of these looks like they have a word or some abbreviation, an open parenthesis, something in the middle, and then a close parenthesis. Each piece of code does something different. This looks like it puts things in the results. This abs looks like it takes the absolute value, and this POW calculates exponents. So each piece of code does something completely different, but they all have the same pattern. They all have the word or abbreviation, an open parenthesis, something in the middle, and a close parenthesis. And any piece of code that has this pattern is called a function. And functions do things with whatever's in their parentheses. So like we take the absolute value of this number, and we do the exponents of these numbers, and we put these words in the results. These functions are built into Python, so whenever you're writing Python code, You can write these pieces of code and they'll just work. And that's exactly what this third link was. It was a list of Python built-in functions. So you can use these using the same method we just did by clicking on it, looking at what it does, and seeing what to put in the parentheses. You can even make your own functions, and you can also let other people use your function. So companies like Google, Airbnb, and Twitter make functions that regular people can use. Yes, there is a function that lets you write a tweet. There's a function that'll let you get a list of a user's friends just from running their function in code. Those aren't built into Python, but to use them, it's exactly the same process. You go to Twitter's website, how to set up their functions, and how to use them. So that's the core concept I wanted to teach you in this video, is that functions do things with what's in their parentheses. That was probably a lot to take in, so let's dissect everything and recap what we learned and how to code. So coding is just a to-do list for a computer, nothing more. We find code on the internet and resources like W3 Schools. There are different programming languages out there, and we start code in special places called environments. Nobody knows exactly how to type everything. You learn from examples and you'll pick up the patterns as you go. And lastly, a core concept in programming is that functions do things with what's in their parentheses. Woo! So if I helped you understand at least one area of coding, I would be very happy. When I first started learning how to code at 14, I was really lost. Everything out there looked too complicated and way too technical. It took away the excitement I had for coding and just pushed me further away. This is a way for me to help people who are going through the same thing I was. So if you're in the same boat that I was and I helped you learn how to code, like this video so I know it's working. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me and I appreciate it. Catch it.